3/4 kind of standard, yeah.
But I mean,
Depending on how far you gotta go.
or,
Probably, a lot of times you think it's pressure, it's not pressure, it's volume.
Well, the Cornwall fellow, he had 140 pounds of pressure at his meter, so he had that at his shop, but at his house it was low, which the only thing that can change pressure is a device. You just don't change on its own.
By the pipe.
You can have a little pinhole in the water line and get no flow, but the pressure will be the same on the other side of it. It's not,
That's why
you have to have a
sometimes the
device to
volume-
lower pressure to change it. It won't do it on its own, it just don't happen.
well, if I've got a leak between the meter and the house, I'm going to pay. I ain't fooling with PVC anymore. And I think if I have to go through all that, I'm gonna just go ahead and run fix all through the house.
Let's go ahead and call our meeting to order and start. Minutes can reflect that all members are present except Mr. Moreland. And he may join us. The minutes of your January meeting were a part of your packet. Are there any changes or corrections that need to be made to that set of minutes? If not, we'd entertain motions to approve.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as they're drafted. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It is done. Next is your financials. There's several pages in there. Tommy, you ready, Dale? Questions? Questions about the financial report? No questions, then we entertain motions to accept and approve.
Motion to approve.
For a second,
Second.
further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. It is approved. Next is your water loss. That should be a spreadsheet, colored spreadsheet in your report. Questions about water loss? Tommy, any comments you wanna make?
It went down some, we had that, it might have been some of it, but not all of it, that we had that leak across the river, you know, where the tank was having trouble filling, we fixed that.
That shows up on this report.
Yeah, some of it will be.
Any other questions about the water loss report? We'll accept it as it's presented then. Next is engineering report. Evan?
CDBG, we're still waiting for the environmental, time to run out. She submitted it a couple weeks ago. It's 30 days on it. Talked with SRF today. They say we do not have to apply for the 2020, the letter you got. So they say that since we're on 19, we don't have to apply for that again. But if there's any other projects you're looking at, you can apply. We got till middle of March, right? Middle of March to do something there, so.
I was gonna ask y'all if y'all felt like it'd be, you know, they do provide like a 5-year loan program for a study to be done, where they pay for just the engineering stuff to be done and work up. Would y'all be interested in looking at what it'd take to do a water treatment facility?
I've always been kind of concerned since I started here. There's been, you know, rumors we might be hitting that population number where we're gonna be forced to upgrade. Is that an accurate statement?
We're gonna be putting
Well-
a different bracket of testing, we'll have more monitoring to do. We've been doing a cryptosporidium test, which, and I talked to the state man about that the other day. It looks like we're gonna come out with what they call bin 2. There's 4 bins, and bin 2's probably not bad, but they may be able to steal some things we'll have to do.
Population kind of drives the tests that are
Yeah.
required. And then our current treatment plants, what, probably 85% capacity.
Not yet, you know, we're right at a little above around 60 or so, I guess. Well, that's something like that. It's
Depends on what they can treat. I'm
Yeah.
not for sure exactly.
2 million gallons a
Just
day.
because you can pass it through there don't mean you can treat it, so.
We can't
The
treat,
state-
I don't believe we can do a whole 2 million, the plant's just ain't capable. It'll do about 1.7 comfortably, but we probably treat about 1.2 a month, so we're right there getting close to it.
Well, one thing, population is gonna drive stormwater regulations that we've never had to deal with, because we're exempt from. We hit that magic 10,000 threshold.
Maybe it was stormwater. I was
So
thinking,
that would
okay.
have to be dealt with either through a separate department or this department somehow, but, so I'd say we're, you know, a year or 2 years out before we have to really come to some
Would that
decision.
engineering cover stormwater evaluations or whatever's needed there?
We don't deal with stormwater.
Okay, so we wouldn't.
That's nothing we.
Okay, so it wouldn't be our. Wouldn't be our.
That's what I'm saying,
Okay.
that's one of those
It's for the matter.
things looming on our horizon that
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
having to
So with
worry about at this point.
with domestic, do we have any concerns about building a new water plant in the next 5 years, or we think we're cruising? We don't have any.
It was built in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And I think, Tommy can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's kind of getting to the point where you can't retrofit it anymore.
Yeah.
We're changing out the valves right now, which is what we told the state we would do some things. They want, some maintenance has not been kept up at the plant. There's some deteriorated piping. They want it cleaned and painted. The valves, we're putting them in because the plant has trouble. It'd be work more efficiently if we put them in, and putting in new controls, it'll make it more efficient. They really want us to make that plant where it will shut down automatically if there is a turbidity increase, where it be, you know, makes it safer. I'm not so sure we can do it. I mean, not with the technology that's there. I mean, we might make it happen. We just have to figure out that cost. But this right here gets us, the valves we're putting in are gonna be digital instead of analog, so that'll allow SCADA to attach to them. So SCADA is about the only way you can make a plant do what you want it to do as far as automation. We don't have SCADA in the plant. It doesn't have it now. It's all run by manpower only. They tell it to do everything. They put switches on, and when those switches don't work, you have to go all the way downstairs and try to open a valve or beat on it to where you gotta do to get it to operate. And the
when
plant, you know,
prison
some
was
fish-
being constructed, they evaluated both the water plant and the sewer plant, and it was determined at that time that our weak link was the sewer
Sewer.
plant, and so that's why we spent the major dollars developing that new sewer plant. They, based on the calculations, they determined that the current water treatment plant could handle that extra population at the prison for drinking water without any difficulty, but it was the sewer side that we were weak on. And you know, if we continue to get sort of spirited growth, population growth in the area, then yes, we're gonna reach that magic point at some destination out there, and we're gonna have trouble meeting water demand.
Or if your neighbors,
If our if we
Neighbors
sell
want to buy some.
wholesale water, if their areas show tremendous growth and they need more wholesale water, then we could get in a bind sooner. But that's part of your revenue stream is selling some wholesale water.
Right now, you can pull 2 million from the river.
That's what I was
You're
gonna say.
treating $1 million, so
The two is
you
most
won't
of
be
our
able to go
permits.
over that without
and after
the
time.
core magically comes off their moratorium.
We've had a little discussion in this office with one time about selling, why don't we sell water to Fayette? Well, we do or can, but we've just not been asked to. We have this system in place, but, I think there was something there, they wondered why we wouldn't sell them, but we can sell them, or they just choose not to buy them. For whatever purpose they don't choose, I don't know. The other thing is, there's some other issues with the water plant that the settling tubes in the water plant, they only last so many years. They're right at their 20-year lifespan, and they got issues. I had Evan look at them, and they're not cheap to replace either. You easily could look at $100,000 replacing those things. So, and that's not including maybe the labor, but there are just issues coming up that we will have to address the longer it goes along.
So all that said, with this grant for an engineering study on the water system, it's a grant, we just apply for it.
I think it's a loan.
It's a
It's a
loan.
loan, it's SRF, they
Okay,
break
yeah.
it up, because the way SRF works now, they want you to have, they want you to be ready to go to construction before we're out of time.
That's right, yeah.
So instead of you having to pay it out of pocket, they actually do a 5-year note just for
And you're not,
to get it to that point.
we're not gonna be able to get a grant for the water plant. That's just, we don't, the only thing we can, and we've applied for and got is the water loss stuff, which is just rehabbing a water line or doing the flex net, which we're doing to monitor for water leaks. That's about, we've all been there, the mayor we sit in these meetings, and that's about what they tell us we could only qualify for.
Some of the grant type dollars that went into the sewer plant were contributions made by Core Civic, CCA. They plugged some large dollars in the form of grants.
Fast track program.
So, what would you ballpark in these water plant
Anywhere from, depending on what side you build, $4 to
Overbuild.
$6 million,
at? 6?
4 to 6.
Cheaper than I thought.
I would, if you go the route of the membrane, I would build my building big enough to set another 2 million in there, so you'd have, you could do a 2 million, and trains, one train will take up this room right here. That's 1 million gallons, it'll trade 1 million gallons of water. So you can build your building big enough for future growth and set 2 more trains in there to do double that when you're ready. But you could update your facility, get it modernized, get it ready for the future. And then also you're looking at down the road at all the EPA stuff that comes down the road. It'll get you into compliance with some of these other issues that this plant may never can get there with this plant.
Kind of depressing.
What,
Yeah.
where would our money be spent better? I mean, you're looking at a water loss, but if you get a new plant, you're still gonna be losing water.
Well, let's hope we got the project for the water loss monitoring. That'll hope will help us to narrow all that down, save some funds there. That was the purpose of the $525,000 grant we
It'll
got for
take
that.
a while to start getting that data where we can actually work with it.
We'll be working on both at the same time.
Sure.
I think we need to work toward a new plan. I mean, I think there's
Well,
no
this
way
is just
we
the
cannot.
planning, you get money to help plan, cause you gotta pay an engineer the way that works, if you want SRF money, you have to have that in hand, ready to go before they'll even look at you, so we've done learned that with this, we had to go ahead and bite the bullet and pay the engineer to design the tank, and get all that together before we could be able to move ahead with the project, so that's their requirements now.
If we did a new plant, we would be going back at the current location, or we talking about going back up on the hill where we're putting the tank?
Well, probably where the tank's at, there's 30 acres there, so it would fit there, it would fill that, the tank is gonna serve 2 purposes. It's gonna be supply for the plant plus supply for the town. It's gonna hold the water that's needed to help operate the plant, but also the extra capacity of the plant to hold its clear well water. It's gonna serve as a clear well and a storage tank. So, you can put it there. We've looked at the side, it's real close, it's right in the 500-year floodplain, the building
That's my
is.
concern with staying down there.
You ain't gonna work for a lagoon.
And there's no room for that's the biggest thing we got, that little lagoon, there's just no room for your waste to go, and it's maxed out now, really. So,
So we're gonna need that.
you're gonna need some
to have
space
lagoon.
for the waste. You have to deal with your waste. It has to be captured and held and got rid of,
Or sent to the plant.
or sent to the water plant, the
So it
wastewater
would make
plant.
more sense to try to move the plant up on it.
You can send it to the wastewater plant, that's only, if you could make it work out where you are, you could put it to the wastewater plant. Your wastewater plant operator don't like it. They don't like talking about it. I don't know that it's gonna kill them or hurt them, but they think it will. But we've talked about ways to mitigate, just trying to pull the water itself only and let the waste, if there's a way to do it, we talked about a way we might could do that. If you send water over at a slower rate to the wastewater plant and don't bombard it, that's better. So you can put a smaller pump and let it pump longer at a lower flow rate and not bombard it with a bunch of waste. That would help, but it will accumulate waste in it over time from the water plant. And it's never, it's one's biological, one is not. One's, it's a different animal.
So circling all the way back to the beginning, this is just talking about loan for an engineer.
It's to do the planning for it, to have it ready if y'all decide to, and find out what it would take to do it.
How much money are we talking about for the lawn?
It's just to get you on the list. You don't have to take it, it's just like the tank.
You just see what it's.
You know how
gonna-
we put in first and then y'all decide. So it's one of those things. This is just to put in to see where you rank.
Yeah, you can just see where you're at.
After that, we'll go.
There's no downside to getting on the list at
No,
this
there's
point.
no,
I guess,
that's
right?
right. You can always tell them no.
That's no
You don't have to
discussion.
accept it, you just see what it's gonna take to get it there.
That's no discussion in the meeting.
Unless you got another project. You can only apply for one water.
One water,
sewer.
one sewer.
I don't know, what else is wrong, Tom?
We ain't got all night there.
You're gonna have to feed me if we stay here that long.
Do we have any water side of the thing projects on the horizon that we would need? Well, yeah.
Sorry,
Just the thing.
just the tank right now. We
But
can
that's
get
already-
some of
we're
our
already-
camera data analyzed, we can take that and use that for some sewer and stuff,
But as far as getting on the list for that loan, if you're on the list for the loan for project X, you can't get on the list for any other project. So are there any other major capital projects that would be out there that we're, shooting ourselves in the foot by?
Those two biggest ones, we're not gonna get money, well, we might get money for, we talked about in that 10-year plan, laying some lines that will loop a line around to the, from Starlight, or from Sam Beasley around to the, near the prison or the,
Power car?
Powercom, cause you only have one way of water to get there. If you had two ways of water to get there, it'd be better, you could, cause we had the prison out for 7 hours one time. We could stop that stuff if we had a loop line in there. And it might make the county a little more feasible for somebody wanting to. put
Industrial
business.
development and stuff.
Industrial.
Looking for two.
We looked at that, that was one of the projects that we talked about in that 10-year plan. Of course, it was, that 10-year plan, any of those projects can be moved around whenever you wanna pull them.
Is that, getting on that list, is that just for this calendar year and then we?
Yes.
So, would we realistically be looking at that loop project this year,
It was just something we
way out there?
looked at, and then we were gonna do some of those projects where we had dead ends that ain't tied together, I guess that was something we was focusing on ourselves to do mostly. You'd wanna lay a larger line of 10 or 12 on that loop we're talking about around the industrial park.
But also, I would argue that even if you loop your line, if you got a water plant that's maxing out or can't meet the regulations anymore.
It's more important, I do feel, I have that on the top of my list was a water plant because EPA just keeps getting tighter with restrictions. It's cheaper to build one now than it will be for sure 5 years from now, because there ain't nothing gonna go cheaper. It's something you're gonna have to look at.
Well, what we have is served us well, but I think it's past its useful life. I think anybody that walks into it will not argue that, obviously.
Well, it's getting to the point too that it is difficult to make some of the repairs on it and make it compliant with, keep the state happy.
I just wished I knew who built it first. I had a shot on the day. Not insulting engineers.
That may have been state of the art then.
It is a tight design built, plumbing wise.
Well, I'd make a motion that we file whatever the paperwork is we gotta file to get on the SRF for the 2020. Is it calendar year or fiscal year?
It's physical years.
Fiscal year, okay. So get on the 2020, 2021 fiscal year.
It has to be filed by the next middle of March. He just has to send that letter of intent in,
If you
description.
want the letter of intent
The letter-
to focus on the water treatment
The
plant.
water treatment plant, I think it should be the number one priority. I think if you don't get your plant taken care of, your loop lines are not gonna matter.
I think that's the weak link in our system, so, taking some steps to shore that up's gonna help. Have a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Craig seconds. Other discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, general manager's report. Tommy?
We put back your sprinkler system.
I had asked Tommy to, bring the sprinkler discussion back on the agenda again. And if you'll permit me, I'd like to, start some of the discussion, and then you all can jump in and balance it out and give some input too. I have a little trouble with the fees that we're proposing on this sprinkler system. And they sound nominal in print, 15 cents a head and multiples of a city minimum service depending on the size of your meter. But I think the reality is when you start auditing and inventorying buildings, hospitals, schools, government buildings, that this will be a pretty hefty charge added to their water bills every month. And the way this is written and drafted, it is a monthly charge every month. And the fee for the sprinklers in a building could easily exceed their normal water sewer bill. And usually when you think about a fee, you think about it being offset with some type of a service that goes along with it. I don't see that the customer is getting anything for his dollar spent by paying this fee. It looks to me like we had talked at different times about from a building standpoint, wanting to encourage the use of sprinklers in other buildings and homes. I think a fee structure like this would actually discourage someone from considering a sprinkler system, because there's going to be an ongoing and repeatable monthly charge. And it's that charge that I've got some issues with. I don't really have issues with the wording that we drafted in the written portion. It's simply those fees. I'm going to stop with my comments there and let some of you other ones, other board members, voice some of yours as well, and then we can have a little dialogue. Dwight?
I'll jump in on as far as the sprinkler systems on residential construction, that would be run off your domestic lines, so this wouldn't be really applying to that. That would be strictly, unmetered lines. The alternative to doing this was to meter it, to put a meter on it. The reason for doing this mainly was the loss that we incur when they have a leak and having to fix it and this, that, and the other. Looking at this, when you're looking at the total, it is a substantial amount of money to a lot of people. Don't think that was our intent at the time, but other than cutting back on your number of minimums on the mains, as far as the number of heads, you could reduce the rate on that. That would make a big difference. But it is substantial.
Well, in the normal scenario with a installed sprinkler, there is no water loss if it's installed correctly, if it's not leaking anywhere. So we're not recovering lost water.
That's not exactly true, because they're supposed to flush these things. Typically, they do a complete flush, supposedly every 6 months at least, which is several hundreds, maybe even thousands of gallons of water, depending on the size of their system. That's part of the water loss, and we don't know when they're doing it, how much they're doing, because it's not metered. We have no way of knowing that. Now, not all systems are required to be flushed if it's a dry system, but most of your older wet systems are supposed to be flushed at least every 6 months. So there is a water loss element in it. Now, I'm not saying it's anywhere near translate to this kind of dollars by any stretch of the imagination. The easy solution on the big ones would be to just put a meter on it, but because that's a one-time cost, and it would, mitigate it going into the future.
What is the cost of a meter for a 6-inch line? Right, any idea, roughly?
Material, probably about $10,000, but not counting for the bill.
I think it's something we probably need to.
Like I said, we've not billed nobody. I got this little sheet to what information I had, so y'all could see what it looked like.
I think it's like both of you guys said already. It's missed our intent on what we were trying to do. So I think it's something that we need to keep thinking on, maybe keep working on, and restructure, and try to figure out more of our intent, and try to figure out a better way to get to it, other than these fees right here. Is what I think.
Just thinking out loud, we're working on older water lines to take care of water loss, right? And so we're gonna continue to do that. So in theory, we eliminate that part of our water loss at some point. So then we're kind of back to this, and we have a better idea how much we're actually losing in these scenarios, right? Or am I just overly optimistic?
It'll help. You'll know when you got something wrong. But anything can happen anytime in the water system.
Well, I mean, I think we were well intended in
Yeah,
doing this.
I'm not saying it's y'all have the right to set
But-
these rates, it's not.
I don't
nothing.
think we ever looked at numbers like this.
That's why I wanted y'all to see how one of them calculated out.
Well, we didn't have that data. We didn't know how
Yeah, we
many
didn't
heads
have it.
anybody
I didn't
had,
know.
and even
That's
what
why
they
I
thought
said we
might-
bring
I
it
think
back
we're a
down.
little surprised by the,
Just from a
What this
business
fee will
standpoint,
cost.
if we had a sprinkler system and we had 100 sprinkler heads and our bill was gonna go up $3,000 a year, we'd be doing away
Well, I'll
with it.
tell you that some of the conversations I've had with people, they've, you know, they want to know how to kill them, you know, to get rid of them. That's not a simple solution either, because
No.
there's requirements out there above what we do that says this is why you have to have this.
in some industries and specific businesses, you're expected and required to have the facility sprinkled.
By building codes you are, and also by your insurance company. A lot of them, if they come in, they find out it's not operational, they're gonna pull your insurance. So, I think what we need to do is look at adjusting this price downward. Maybe the 15 cents a head, taking it down, cutting the number of multiples of, the size of the line, cutting it back that way. I think there's plenty of room for us to maintain the schedule we have and the way we're trying to do it, but just not be that severe on the cost side of it.
Do we do any maintenance testing on the service line going to these businesses annually that would identify volume and pressure that they're expecting to receive from us?
Just we would just do our own ones. They have to have a certified, if it'd be a fire specialist to do anything on their side of it. We do check backflow preventers, and we do have a fee now to charge for that. We had one gentleman didn't think we were qualified to do it, which I told him he's welcome to hire whoever he pleases. We just need that report to comply with the state of Tennessee. They have to fill out the same form. We get the same training as everybody else does. We go the same classes. But that, as far as that goes, he don't have to take us doing it. He can hire somebody to do it.
I would like to take these and plug some different figures, multipliers into them, and see what it translates to in real dollars. But
I mean, we know, we know now what a lot of people have, and we know what they're supposed to be flowing once a year. Can we not work the data backwards to work out a one-time bill
A reasonable price for that flush.
for that flush?
Can we make an estimate of how many, if you got a place with 100 heads, how many gallons are they flushing twice a year? Or a per head, you know, some kind of back end of that math.
the size of the line probably would dictate that more than the
Okay.
number of heads.
Okay.
Some facilities have 2 lines. They have one that's got 8 and a 6, I believe.
I think we
Yeah.
just, I feel like we need to work the numbers backwards and have an annual deal.
I think we just need to look
Or
at it.
keep studying on it. I don't think
One
we
more
need to-
comment that I would make too is before we assess this charge, whatever it turns out to be, we need to give ample timing so that businesses and especially government can factor it into their budget cycle. Because if this hits them midstream in a budget year, it's sort of a train wreck.
Yeah.
So we need to be compassionate to budget developments as well.
Do we have any rules on the books if we were to do a rate increase or any pricing changes? Is there a rule for notification that we're?
Well,
You do public hearings.
Public hearing, we just
the
did
county
that.
might do something different. I know generally you have the right as a board to change your rates as you see fit, whenever you see fit. But you probably wanna have some kind of notification.
Give them 3 months or, you know, maybe even a year. If, you know, governments are on 1-year budget
The
cycles.
government's on a fiscal year, but they're developing budgets during the March and April time frame so that they can get them ready to pass and present. So it's imminent on county government right now, to know what this would be.
So, looking at
Do you wanna comment? That's your area too.
Well, we're already developing our budget right now. So,
Right now, we're in the middle of it. Yeah.
you know, my suggestion would be, and I'll put this in the form of a motion, we appoint a subcommittee to go through and study this and come back with a recommendation on dollar amounts or even a different kind of policy, cause I'm looking at 3 different ones I found and they're all different. So I think, cause one of them talks about judging it on the size of the meter, one of them kinda does like this, but they're charging 0.0089 cents per sprinkler head instead of 15 cents a sprinkler head. So I think it'd be better, instead of saying, well, we just keep looking at it, I think it'd be better if we had a subcommittee that could actually look at it and come back with a recommendation instead of us coming back next month and trying to figure it out in the meeting. So I'll make a motion, we appoint a subcommittee to come back with recommendations for either charges or a different method of measuring the flow or what the charges are gonna be.
Are we gonna try to make this fiscal year deadline, or?
It'll be pushing it, cause we don't have a meeting till, well, we got a meeting on March, the budgeting statute adopted said we're supposed to have it voted on by April 1st.
If it's not realistic, if we're gonna make this one or not.
Shows us
I'd
how
like to kick the can, but I'd say shoot for next year then.
We've never had these fees.
Correct.
What's another year gonna hurt if we analyze it, have a subcommittee?
Well, I actually
Talk
found
about
one of the things I found was actually from MTS. There was another water utility that asked if there had been any studies done, and they said they had found a water district that had done a study, and they talked about what all the charges went to. I think that'd be good if we could lay it out in there and say, this is what the charges are gonna go for. So that's why I would suggest appointing a subcommittee, that way they could study the issue and then come back with a recommendation.
I like the subcommittee for it. I
Do we
just
have a
wonder-
second on Stephen's motion?
I'll second that.
We have a second. And I might input, it might be good to bring in, to work with that task force, that subcommittee, someone from TAUD as well as, MTS. They would have somebody that specializes in utilities, and TAUD, could help with that as well. Other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It was not stated, but it may have been implied that we would delay any charges until we get results. We passed this policy that had a fee structure. So if we're not gonna charge, we probably need to clarify it in the minutes that we're delaying charges until we can better assess the impact and what they should be. Dwight, did you have
I
comments?
was gonna make a motion to that effect, that we delay inaction on, any action on this policy until we, have the results from our subcommittee.
Have a second? Have a second. Other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
I think I need to clarify one thing, and maybe I should have put this in my motion. Who's gonna comprise the subcommittee?
That was my next question. Now, who's gonna appoint the subcommittee?
Always refers to the executive committee, don't
It may.
All joking aside, it might be useful to have the firemen on that subcommittee, but not to give you any extra work, Mark.
I don't think the executive committee has let us down yet. So, you want my recommendation, there it is.
Yeah, I think that would work, if y'all feel comfortable with that. I mean, I would be in agreement with that, I mean.
Y'all need any help, Marcus?
We'll probably pull in some, resources from these other agencies that can
Yeah, don't worry.
at least show us a variety of policies on the books, at other places. If that's acceptable, then the executive committee will work to flesh this out and get some data for you. Okay, your budget, Tommy, is the next item. Is there any other discussion on the sprinklers?
Only other thing I'd like to let y'all know is, in getting some of this information together, some sprinkler systems are deficient in proper backflow protection. They do not have the proper testable device that the law requires, and they're gonna have to fix them.
Let's deal with that. I'll deal with that too, please.
Well, we're mandated as a utility to deal with that.
Okay.
We have to do it. I have to, when I know they're deficient, I have to send them out a letter to tell them to fix it. TCA code.
So what are you asking us to do?
I'm just letting you know that we're
Okay.
gonna have to.
And you're doing that now?
We're doing it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you wanna talk about your budget? Should have a page in your
It's
packet.
updated a little bit since y'all seen what y'all had. It's a little bit different. I went ahead, we put in 3% expenses increase on all line items. That includes employees, a raise for employees. That column on this, the far right, is that 3%, what it looks like on all those line items. And the total down there at the bottom, that 3% is totaled at 282 with some change. The 3192, that, I separated that because that was a question a little bit about the salaries. That's what your salary increase was. Then the bottom line down there, if you don't do the raises, it's 250. That's $250,000, and 3%. That's what it looks like. And that's not saying we're going to spend that. It's just trying to have some buffer in there if you do have expenses change on you.
So you're saying you just took a straight 3% on all categories?
Yes, sir. But not all. Some of them in blue are for once the one that the 55,000 on the data processing. We put a little money in there just in case we ain't able to get our software where it needed to be with this company that we've had trouble. You know, we may have to look at something else, so we put a little money in there just in case. We may not spend it, but it's there, and that shows a little. That's where the overage is at 33,000 on that. May spend it. We might ask y'all to spend it. We might not. I just want to put it in there. The maintenance and repair equipment, we estimated that we would be around 119. We've had the 159. I'd like to keep it there because we may have those kind of expenses pop up. It's an extra 40 there that we may or may not spend, but we might, because we are doing more and more upgrading of our system, changes and maintenance, and that's one reason we kept that in there. And that's probably some of our stuff we're doing at the water plants and things like that too. So we are spending some money down there now on the valves, and we're gonna have to paint the pipe gallery. I don't know what that's gonna cost yet. We'll have to put that out to a bid probably of some kind. It'll have to be sandblasted and painted and all that. Permits, we probably spend around the 10,789, but put a little extra in there just in case. Because when we file for our own water projects, we have to pay fees, or any other thing we have to pay a fee for. We had to pay a fee for the permit to get the land application for and we'll have to pay a permit for the sewer land application too. There'll be a fee for that. We ain't got there yet, but we had to pay one for the water treatment plant's waste to be put on the land. We had to get somebody to come out. That's a fee for that. We had to pay that. That's kind of what fees we're talking about. Let's see. That 180 down there, that was a miscalculation on our insurance cost every year. We have one more payment probably due before the end of the year, and we had it at 70-something thousand, and we increased it to 83. It's about $4,000 more, but we would have spent that because that's our insurance rate for the year. It's because we were having to look at the budget within 5 months, maybe 5 months. When I saw that, I corrected it because we'd have probably one or two more insurance payouts for the end of the year, and it'll equal to $83,000. that's liability insurance stuff we have to pay, annually. I'm gonna jump past the depreciation, go down, because it's got some detail on another report here. The $131,000, we added the project cost of the tank to that expense right there. That'd be your loan, your interest expense added to that. And it might be come to fruition in early 2021. So we need to budget for it if it hits in this budget year.
Interest wouldn't start until project is complete and turned over to us.
But it could start this budget year, so we need to plan on it and have it ready. And we didn't spend any money in the last line item, but I did leave some equipment cost in there as $8,000. May spend it, may not. Some of these things we may never touch them or get to them, but you have some extra money around in there to help cover some costs. And I did give y'all on this next sheet here, I kind of try to break down some of those costs on the loan and the cash projects, and those are where we end up with totals down here, like the $1,472,000. If you did all these things, that's what you would spend out that year. I would like to at least look at trying to do our shop building this year if we can.
Well, we've talked about it for
We've talked
2
about
or 3 years
Yeah.
now.
We got all this equipment out in the weather.
Did we buy the land? Did we ever buy?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
got the land.
Got the land. We are working on trying to get we did the first phase of that little sewer project, got it done. We had trouble getting a right of easement to come across the other. We don't have to do that, but it would be better. It would help more than just us. It'd help the community out if we could go further. But we have another solution to get sewer for the building, just be a pump and tied in behind the food land over here. So we can get our sewer fixed up. That's the only thing that was give us a little heart. We'd have to have pump systems to have gravity.
So other than that, there's no one thing holding us back from getting started on it?
Well, no, there's nothing really holding us back. We can move ahead. We can make sewer work for us. It just be a pump system. Stop, yeah.
So how much you looking for?
Doing rate of inflation.
We estimate around 500,000. Now the guy, we asked the guy about, he wanted to know what the building, he wanted to sell his building down here, but he wanted $1.2 million for it.
For what?
For that metal building down here, the metal shop.
The green barn down
Green
there.
Barn. It's about a 70,000 square foot
You
building.
talking about, Kerry?
Yeah, Jerry Brothers.
What's a yard cheaper than that? Let's say your whole thing, rough and all.
Well, I mean, if y'all was interested in that building, we'd offer them a way less amount of money than that. But we'd have to modify that building a little bit.
How big you thinking for your building?
It's only gonna be like 100, I was estimating around 150, 160 by 80 or something like that.
That building at Green Barn down there has a lot of interior steel posts all throughout it. So it's got limited drive-through possibilities. It's not that,
Well,
ceiling's not
it's
that
an
high.
we had a couple different estimates from engineers on what it would do.
That seems
When
like
it
a
was
lot
in
for
use, they
doing
were
that
using
size.
tow motors
Now,
only in there.
About 100 and
There's some-
I think we spent-
There's some office space and training rooms in that
I
building.
understand, that still
That's not
seems like.
spending $100,000.
Yeah.
Paving, concrete, and all.
Paving.
A paving was involved in it
Okay.
and such,
It was
You
site
gonna do
prep,
concrete and
paving.
paving too. That might be where some of the expense kicks in too.
We need to get that thing on the list. I mean, we done bought all this new equipment, we got it sitting all out in the weather.
We have to make sure we don't, some of it, we have to we have a little room in the old building down there that we have heated. We don't put the things that have water in them, they'll freeze. We done had one of them freezing, bust a little.
And I will say
component.
there may be a need in the near future for that space for down there for another building.
Yeah, they may need it for something else.
Tom, I got some questions.
Yeah.
I don't know, you and I already had this conversation, but
Fine. Go ahead.
out here, your expenses, you got 3%, that's your proposed 3% raise, correct?
Where you,
Now, I'm right now, I'm just asking about that far left, that far right column.
Yes,
That whole
sir.
column. as far as the employees, that's the proposed 3% raise, right?
Yeah, that's your first, the 105, the 162, the 187. I figured in all
Yes,
this,
all the way down to 207 should be.
except for you don't have the 191 and the 196 is not included in that.
Okay.
That's board member training and in-service training. Board members' payments for your meetings and also your
But
in-service
the
training.
189 you're showing, is that an increase of 16,765.41?
Now this includes 2 new employees in here also.
So that's what I was gonna ask, cause what I'm wanting to know is that 16,000, is that, where does that number come from? Cause I'm looking at, we got budget for 1920,
Well,
well,
I bet
opposed to
that-
2021,
that's
that's
just a simple,
86,468.
That's a simple deduction from the estimated number. Is how that works there. We estimated we were gonna spend, I think that's right, Mayor.
Well, that's only $2,000 difference.
No, what
Wait a
that
minute.
is, Mayor, it's the,
It's the
that
percentage.
is the 3%
That is the
of
percentage.
the
I'm
budget.
sorry.
Right, that's the
That's
3%,
3%.
but there's a difference between what was 1920 budgeted and 2021, it's 86,468, and that's the 2 other employees, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's because, as you told me, we've got some people nearing
Retirement.
retirement, and you wanna get some people in, get them trained for a couple of years before we start having some.
We get the men we have in the field now. I feel we need to keep them because we stay pretty busy. I mean, I've got your wastewater treatment plant operator and your chief operator of your water plant are going to retire soon, within the next 3 to 5 years. We can train that person now cheaper than hiring somebody like you went out and hired me. We could train that person, bring them in at $12 an hour, train them for that job, and they can grow up into this business, you know, cheaper than we can hire somebody directly out. You'll pay a trained operator with experience will make way more. They'll make in the $20 an hour range, 22. We can train those people if we had to. Those 2 employees would help me rotate these guys around, get that cross training, because we need the guys we got, the number. We're doing a lot of more maintenance. We're gonna be doing more projects on our own, and we need those guys to do that. That would help me get this cross training, to get somebody trained for those jobs to take them when it's time. And my personal opinion, I don't think we'll have to replace 2 of those that are gonna retire. We'll just phase those 2 employees out over time.
So I'm looking at, like I said, the difference between the 1920 and the 2021 was 86,468, but if I deduct the 16,765.41, that should really be
That's
the
your
cost of 2 new
3%.
employees, correct? Because the 16,765.41, that's the 3% increase.
2 employees would be 75,818. That's $12 an hour, which is what we normally been starting people out at new. And the difference, that 16 is that 585. That's just simply the 3% raise if you gave it to them.
And the 2 new
Now
employees.
that line item is the bulk of your employees. That's all your field hands, your water,
Right.
you know.
The 189 is because the clerical's 162, and then you got 185 in SU.
Yeah.
And overtime, I know we've had a lot of overtime just because we've had a lot of things go
We
wrong
beefed
here
that up a
lately.
little bit. That's been beefed up a little bit. We may or may not spend that money as well, but we beefed it up, so.
That's kind of depending on circumstances. Like I know you look, how many days did y'all try to find that leak over in Perry's Bend and finally traced it back?
4 days and we traced it finally back right here across the
Right.
bridge.
So I know that's kind of up to circumstance and how that falls.
Yeah.
And like I said, you and I talked about it, and I know you proposed 3%, but I'll be more comfortable with 2.5%. That's actually what.
And I broke that down for you.
Right.
On the
And I will-
page.
And I will go ahead and freely admit, if you look at it, there's not a ton of difference in between the 2 numbers.
Yeah.
But I'm not just looking at this department, I'm responsible for a bunch of other ones too, and I'm not doing a 3% increase across the board. I'm looking at a 2.5, and even then, I will have to admit, you and I've had this conversation, all those people out there that are looking at taxes or bills or anything like this, they're not getting that the cost of living adjusted every year. So, but if I'm looking at anything, I'm looking at the 2.5. And I won't put anybody on the spot, I'm gonna make a motion on this, but if you go vote against me, I don't hold it against you whatsoever, you're not hurting my feelings. So I'm gonna make a motion that if we're gonna do a raise, we do it at 2.50%, not 3%.
I second that.
Have a motion and a second to adjust the salary increases to 2.5%. Discussion.
But that's to match the other departments, right?
That's what I'm looking at.
That's what we're proposing in the other departments.
Is that settled?
No.
It will be when I tell them I'm not giving you 3%, you get 2.5.
Should the motion,
My man.
should the
But it
motion
will
be to
be.
match the increase to other county departments? What if you go 2.75 or 1.5?
Well,
You don't anticipate it moving
I
from
don't
2.5?
anticipate, like I said, I looked online today and from 2019, January 2019 to January 2020, the rate of inflation was 2.5%.
Okay.
And so if it's cost of living adjustment, I'm taking it to the inflation,
Okay.
and that's 2.5%. And we're just so in a predicament right now, looking at our budget, we have so many things in flux, and I'll give you an example. When we did the state came in and did the current value update, we lost $201,000 in tax money from CCA. So we just lost that, it's gone. And just looking at I think I went to the trustee's office today and got numbers on 4 different commercial buildings, and we're getting about $215,000 we lost. Now, we did have an increase, and it's a funny thing, commercial went down, but residential went up.
Yeah.
So you might get more in residential than you lost in commercial, but the fact of the matter is, we lost $201,000 in one pop on that one. And I do know there was a bunch of people came in and to the Board of Equalization, and the Urban Services assessment went down $2 million from what it was in the current value update, because the Board of Equalization changed it, so we lost some there.
Motion on the floor is to, okay,
You gonna talk about these other expenses first? Like the trucks and the stuff that's on.
Well, my motion is just for the employee
I'm
pay.
sorry.
let me deal with this
I
one, then we'll
apologize.
come back on your overall budget. We hadn't gotten a motion yet on it. So the current motion on the floor is to, factor in a 2.5% adjustment for salaries and wages. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It is done. Now, we'll come back and look at your other budget pieces, and then we'll need to take a final vote when we're through on approval of the whole budget. And Tommy can refactor these
Yeah.
to correct that change in wages.
Can I ask a question? I'd ask it, and I'm not sure that I got the answer, or are these others increased by 3%, or is it just the wages
Oh,
that you done?
Except the ones in blue.
So
The ones in
everything
blue.
except blue is figured on 3%.
3%.
Okay. If our rate of inflation is 2.5, I think all of those should be figured on that to arrive at the same amount of money in actuality.
It can be done.
Now, if you need increases for additional things, then that could be added to it. But that's just, are you catching my reasoning here? Okay.
I would have one question on that. I'm looking at the depreciation, and the budgeted this year is $585. We're estimating at $689,142, and I'm sorry, man, but this is the 514 line item. And we got proposed 832, 789, 72. Wasn't there some kind of adjustments or something that came out of that as a result of the audit, and that's the reason it's kind of going up
Well,
as much as it is? Or?
the final audit was in 2019, June. And I give y'all this sheet here, this depreciation sheet. The last sheet, or 2 sheets, everything in yellow was done after the fact, after the audit. You have to depreciate them as they go through. So we had to add this number back to that 620 that was in the audit. Is that right there? Am I saying it right? You're looking confused.
The ones in yellow, that you took that from us, or the items that we have purchased this year?
Yeah, there's items we
You,
purchased.
Okay,
you,
you have-
char- you start charging
As
depreciation
you
when the
purchase.
item is put in
Purchase.
service.
Right.
Uh-huh. See, we've added some things since then. That's where you get on your on this sheet I have for you, right here, that total at the top, that 727,013 on this sheet here that says depreciation, and that's where we're actually starting out at on this, but figuring for next year, if we add all these items, then you're gonna add at the total down here, it would be 832,789.
But
And
you started from the 727, not the 5, or whatever it was 6.
6.8. That was the calculation on our estimations. I could have fixed that and made it 620, and made it a little more clearer, because that's what we knew we had at the budget year. But when you do your estimate on 5 months, that calculated out that's what you spend. Kind of like I did on the insurance, had to adjust it. It wasn't exactly correct.
Well, and factored in on this, depreciation sheet are some projects that you believe you will bring online during
Yeah.
this next budget year.
Yeah.
So you're pre-calculating your, storage tank, your shop building,
Storage
some of
tank.
these things that are not yet done.
The FlexNet system will have to be depreciated when it's done. Planter Street will have to be depreciated. It's part of it's done. If we go any further, we can do part of it now, depreciate it once we pay out everything. Highway 141, I just filed for the other half of that project so we could go ahead and do it all when we get ready. And Mr. Kemp will be lining him up for that soon. Just finish that up and get that finished. But it'll be depreciated by next year sometime, so we need to figure on that. And we have a 1-ton pickup truck that we already we haul our equipment on it a lot. And we only have we have 2 dump trucks now, of course, but one gets tied up all the time just about at the sewer plant. One's in the shop right now, it's tore up. And looking at maybe $2,500 just in parts right now. It's not labor yet. They're doing,
That new one is,
no, the old one.
sick, man. When did you put the new one in service?
Just last year sometime.
Less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago. New one's fine, it's the
still
old.
shiny.
No, I'm just asking, cause I remember when I started on the board, it was held up at the border.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had.
It
yeah,
went
yeah.
in
Yeah.
service in
Didn't it?
July.
July, yeah. The 1-ton they use all the time, the hitch almost broke plumb off, it bent it, and the trailer come off on them. And we're hauling too much heavy equipment. I'm trying to haul it on a small truck. The 5500, if we had it, they'll haul a backhoe, our biggest machine. And I've also put in for a trailer that we don't have to haul with, that size weight. We don't have that. Just like this time right now, I have a hard time. I use the red dump truck right now when I can get it, but if they're having to do waste, I can't get it, because if they put 1 ounce of waste in that truck, I can't dump it nowhere. I have to take it all the way to Carthage. If they put any waste in that truck, you can't go out here and just dump it anywhere. It's gotta go to Carthage. And I've had that happen to me many a time. I have borrowed from the the road commissioner's son, but I hate to do it all the time. But, this truck would help us in the times when we had something down and didn't have a way to haul something around. It'll also get our fleet, if we buy all these other 2 trucks, it'll get our fleet up to date. And we can sell off all the 13-year model and down, get rid of them. And, cause they're depreciated out, most all of them. And the mayor and I was talking about it, if you buy a vehicle and it is 5 years depreciation, if you replace that vehicle by that 5-year end date, that money's still in the bank for depreciating that. You can keep your fleet new and updated and sell it before it gets so beat down to make some profit off of it. I don't know if we've had that practice always, but it is a good practice to keep your fleet updated. The money, say $10,000 you paying depreciation on a vehicle. if it's getting ready to go out of depreciation, if you put that in this year's budget cycle. If the truck cost about $1,000 more depreciation, you just had to add $1,000 to the budget to buy it. So the money's in there to purchase it with, if you'll keep it in there. If you let that go past you, it gets rotated off the list. And it does free up an expense, but at least if you reuse it, you're gonna keep your fleet up to date. And not have a, you know,
That's just a basic fleet management. I
Fleet
know we should
management.
Talk about that.
Yeah, we do it in reverse, we're doing it to avoid paying taxes.
yeah. But that is, that'll get us up to date, and when the other trucks do come time, you know, do the same thing with them. But it's sometimes I don't have enough vehicles for all the employees either. We've been using some, we pulled some out of stock and using them, but one of them transmissions went out in his old truck, his done went out in it. But it'll get our fleet updated, that's what I'm asking to do.
So are you saying that you're gonna have 2 trucks to sell that will offset some of this?
We're gonna have the third.
That's what I thought you were saying, but then you said you were keeping them to use them.
No, I said we are using some
Okay.
of the old ones.
Well, that's what confused me.
You have 2 older trucks in the 1990 somethings down there right now. You got that 13, which I checked on about fixing it, which
Right.
is $11,000 if we go to get it up to par. With the airbag blew, the damage and paint and all that was gonna cost about $11,000, and ain't really worth that to, in my opinion. Sell that. There's one sister truck to it that we own. I've had to do a lot of maintenance on it to keep it on the road. Brakes. It's had sensors going out. Get it out of the way. So the 13 on down, we'll get rid of them. There's a little Dodge pickup.
So you're gonna have 3, 4, how many are you talking about selling?
There's probably gonna be 4 to 5 vehicles here.
Okay,
And I was gonna go through the Gov deals and set them up that
and
way.
that would probably recoup a bit of this, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what we're planning.
That was my point.
Yes, sir.
If you're not just adding, you're replacing.
We're replacing. We'll sell those off.
I think that 13 that was wrecked, if it's gonna cost $11,000 to fix it, $11,000 in my book is cheaper than $29,942, but maybe I'm looking at my figures wrong. But, you know, you're gonna have salvage value on it, who knows, you may get $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for it wrecked, so.
It'll definitely pay some of your depreciation costs that you have to put in there yearly. It'll help out with that first year.
I still don't understand if it was fixable, why we didn't fix it when it was first wrecked and we got it back from the insurance company. Instead of letting it sit there and deteriorate more, but that's water under the bridge. Or over the dam, or under the dam. Through the bridge. Something to do with water. I don't know.
Other discussion on the budget?
I would like to see these categories, if we're trying to maintain, adjusted to 2.5% instead of 3%, unless that we need additional funds in it. I'm fine with the trucks, but that's just my thought process at this point.
You gonna put that in the form of a motion?
Not
or
really.
just discussion?
It was more of a point of discussion at this point. I'd like to see what some of the other thoughts are in that along those lines.
Well, if it was just based on keeping everything 3%, we've already done the employees at 2.5, I mean, I'm fine with doing it 2.5. But
Not
just as long as there's some of these that if it's absolutely necessary, like I said, it's above, now these blue ones, is that above the 3% or was that, those are the ones that you think is
Yeah, those
absolutely
are the
necessary to have that amount, correct?
Just in case we had to do something, you have it.
Like you said, for the data processing, in case you have to go to a different software system, and
If
you've
we
got
have
that
to.
already built in.
We know that's about what the price was on the competitor.
Liability insurance, you're gonna have to pay whatever that cost is,
Right.
no matter what.
So I would-
The difference between 2.5 and 3 on most of those is not substantial. A few of them, it would amount to a few $100s possibly, but it's not a big
No, it's.
amount of money one way or the other. It just to keep it in line with the other was my thinking.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just seeing a consistent 2.5 across the board, unless you have those specific line items that just have.
Those aren't calculated into 3%, so they're, if we had to do something with them, you got it. And hopefully we won't have to, but we got it if we do.
Well, let's see if we can narrow this down and kinda land it then.
I will
Where you
make
wanna
that
go?
as a form, I will make that as a formal motion to make the expenses increase to 2.5 unless it's one of the areas that we know we have to have more money as far as just our general increase. Planning on 2.5. We know that's the rate of inflation for this period. That's in line with the, what we're looking at in salaries and most of the other departments as well. So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion is to, I assume, to approve the budget subject to, 2.5% growth factor, in those expense line items. Clear what you're voting on?
Well, I will ask again, these ones you've got in blue,
Mm-hmm.
these are above the
3%,
3%,
yes.
and those are amounts you're trying to go ahead and build in.
If something has to be done.
If this is acceptable to you, I'll kind of amend your all's motion, I'll go through and name the actual line object code.
that's fine.
So we just kind of exempt those out and say 2.5%, everything but those specific object codes.
Or can we,
Just say anything that's in blue.
yeah, yeah,
The green is just that, it had to do that.
yeah.
Looks like 6 line items that are highlighted in blue that do not go along with that 2.5% adjustment. We clear, or do we need an amendment? If you're clear, we'll vote.
I'm clear.
All in favor, say aye.
No.
Opposed, say no. It's done. Tommy, do you have anything else you needed to bring
I did.
tonight?
Not that other than we talked about, I think we have a CD coming due, and I think it'll be in time. It's due April 6th, so we ought to be able to get a quote on that by the next meeting.
Okay.
We didn't know, but we was trying to figure out what the date. Mary Dale said it's April 6th, so I was gonna make sure we'd have to do something special if we didn't get in near a board meeting. But we won't have to.
And I would just ask that we do it same way we did for the last one, with, ask them to respond with a sealed envelopes and.
We may package some extra unneeded money and do a larger CD than is rolling up.
You know what the amount of it is? 7 something.
457.
457. We had talked about, I think, that my memory served of even going as high as another million with it.
Yeah.
I think we did too.
And
457.
if it's 457, I would say get them to quote 500 and a million.
That's what we did last time.
1.7 and.
Exactly what we did last time, so that's what we were talking about possibly doing.
I like to hear y'all's discussion.
Yeah, because I think we asked for different amounts and then we
We did.
kind of put it to what we thought would be
A
good.
different time, year,
Right.
1, 2, and 3 year time frames.
Because we asked them to quote us different amounts and different time frames, and then we picked one we thought was the most, I guess, advantageous to us.
I've got something. I kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts on the shop. It's kind of stuck with me. I mean, we purchased the land to get it moving. We have purchased how many pieces of equipment now this past year, 2 years? Backhoe,
Through
Traco.
the grant where we had that grant money, you had a truck and a dump truck. We have, since I've been here, we've had new backhoe, a mini loader, steer loader.
Right,
We bought the vac truck. We've
We
got
just
another.
approved that in the budget.
right. Oh,
Yeah, it was included in the budget when it comes.
Yes,
He's
it
got it
was.
penciled in at about
Oh.
500,000, I
Yes,
think.
sir. I'm
okay,
sorry.
okay, I'm sorry.
That's that
I
other
thought you
sheet.
were talking
It's
about.
on your depreciation
Move
sheet.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I thought you
So,
had
it's a
questions
go.
about
it's a go,
it.
I'm, yeah.
Try and keep up, Craig.
What we gotta do to move ahead? We got it in the budget, let's go. Why is it not built?
Well, they can't build it tomorrow.
Why not?
They get
Comments
better
from the
prices.
public or anybody else?
Has a-
Did you have something to say?
Okay.
Okay.
Other discussion that needs to come before this group tonight?
I can make some, I wanna thank Tommy and all of his guys for their assistance and what they've done to help out on some of the issues that have popped up in the streetscape project. I know it hasn't been easy, and I certainly appreciate their assistance.
We're gonna get a bunch of new sewer lines out of this, aren't we?
Unfortunately, yeah, well, if you wanna look at it one way, unfortunately, and another way, it should have been done to begin with, while they had the sidewalks up, it should have been planned to be done to begin with, but it is getting done, and some of those lines have been in there since, I guess, 60 or
Old
61.
clay line, yeah.
Being replaced. I just
Oh,
know it
okay.
wasn't the most pleasant way for it to be done, but
Yeah. We'll
I know
fix it.
there's adverse circumstances you've had to deal with, and
It's part of it. It's,
Well, I like that, adverse circumstance. I gotta remember that one.
like I said, I just wanna thank Tommy and all his guys for their work, and it's greatly appreciated.
It all pays the same, right?
Work is work.
Yeah, some of it's more fun doing than the rest, some
Oh,
of it.
there's more enjoyable parts of work in life, yeah, that's true.
If there's nothing else to come before us, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion with Jerry?
Second.
I always do.
See you all next
Hey.
month.
I thought you all.
Last one here, first one gone.
That's right.
But I was on time.
Almost.
No,
I bet it was raised back.
5 o'clock I was sitting
Did
there.
we start early?
Yeah, started early.
We started
Just one
early.
minute.
Just 1 minute.
You ain't 15 minutes early, but late.
But it was early.